Okay, so in this video we're going to be talking about how the law of attraction and the law of manifestation have been influenced by organized religion and modern society. This is video 2A in the Law of Manifestation series. So, this is extremely important to understand because if you live in the Western world, even though you are not a religious person, maybe you were a religious person, maybe you've never been a religious person, it doesn't matter. Our society has hypnotized you to believe certain principles about how the universe works. This has happened on an unconscious level. You may not even be consciously aware. Now, if you've investigated psychology at all, or the power of persuasion, or hypnotism, or any of these things, whether it's used to help empower yourself or to influence others, you know that the majority of our decisions are being influenced by our unconscious mind. So you can be consciously thinking something and be motivated to do something completely different. And this is very true when it comes to understanding the law of attraction. So what I'm here to say to you is that the law of attraction, as it has been presented to modern society, is at best incomplete. The law of attraction by itself cannot work without the law of manifestation. But at worst, the law of attraction is not only incomplete, but there are people who are teaching you things about the law of attraction which will actually inhibit your ability to attract success. And we're going to get into that. So in this second video, we're going to be talking about how religion and how society is manipulating you on an unconscious level to keep you from being able to manifest the life of your dreams. Okay? So, let's talk again about what the law of attraction is, according to a lot of the teachings that are running around these days. So, the law of attraction as it is being presented now says that the universe operates on the law of vibration, and that how you vibrate will connect you to other things that vibrate on that same level. And if you stay in that vibration, then those things will come to you. You will attract them to you. I'm just telling you what the law of attraction is. And so how that's been interpreted is that this vibration is emotions. So emotions are reduced to vibrations, and as long as you stay in positive vibrations, positive things will be attracted to you. Okay, that's what the law of attraction is. And then, so the takeaway from that is, oh, as long as I stay positive and focus on positive feelings and stay feeling positive about things I want, like money and love and success, then those things will be attracted to me. The law of attraction will force those things to come to me, and I can then have what I want. It sounds great, and it is partially true. And I'm going to explain to you how you can tap into your own specific projection that vibrates exactly what your soul wants to bring, which of course is going to bring you the greatest happiness. We'll talk about that a little later. But before we get into that, let us talk about how religion has affected society, which has programmed you to think certain ways about the universe, which makes which creates blocks in your unconscious mind to attract things to you, but it also takes the teeth out of the law of attraction and actually destroys your ability to attract. So what I'm saying here is that people can be following the law of attraction to the letter based on how they've been taught and still end up having nothing working for them. And the more that they go and try and learn about the law of attraction, the more stuck they get and the less success they have. And let me just ask you straight out. You know, if you're watching this, I'm assuming that you haven't mastered or had the law of attraction bring you absolutely everything. If you have, congratulations. I'm happy for you. In all seriousness, I'm very happy for you. But if you're like me, you may have spent years, sitting on the edge of your bed or walking on the beach or walking in the woods and focusing on positive things and only focusing on positive ideas and feeling confident in yourself and trying to create positive feelings associated with things you want, like money, success, love. And like me, maybe you had some mixed success in the beginning where sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. And then as time went on, you became less and less able to manifest those positive feelings. And perhaps even, and I find this very common, since it's not working, you start to have negative feelings and makes it harder for you to stay positive. And then on top of that, you start judging and criticizing yourself for not being spiritual enough to stay positive. And then you start to blame yourself, and then you get in this cycle of shame. Now, we'll talk about that in the Part B video and how you can address that. But today, what I want to talk to you about is the history of modern society and how it has created these blocks in our unconscious mind that actually thwart the law of attraction, no matter how much you consciously try to focus on positive things. And once I explain this to you, it's going to make a lot more sense to you, and you're going to see how our hands are tied from the get-go. And while the law of attraction, even though I'm telling you that the law of attraction doesn't work completely without the law of manifestation, even the law of attraction, the part of it that does work, it ends up being just completely immobilized. It becomes worthless. Okay? And I'll explain to you, it's not your fault. You've been programmed this way. So let me talk about that. All right, so long about around the Middle Ages, anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 years ago, depending on where your ancestors may have come from in Europe, the Christian religion started taking over. And the Abrahamic mythology about God and the universe, and as we call it, the Judeo-Christian value system, began being imposed on all of the Western world, on all of the civilized world, and it very effectively replaced the pre-existing mindset of our ancestors. Now, all over the world, when you go back far enough into primitive religions, what you're going to find is the belief that human beings are an integral part of a community of other beings, both living and spiritual. And there was a very strong belief and teaching that it was up to each individual to decide their fate and what they wanted. And it was up to each of them to decide what it is their specific fate was, that they themselves wanted, that made them different from everybody else. And it was their journey in this physical life to go and get that for themselves. And so people were encouraged to seek their own glory, to seek their own fame, to seek their own success and their riches. And this was seen as a positive trait, the trait of bravery, the trait of self-confidence, the trait of pride in oneself. These were things that you looked for, and you taught this to your children. You were taught to go conquer the world and conquer your life. And so the forces of nature, the spirits, the gods, the ancestors, the ascended masters, were all here to guide you in this process. Now that is completely different from what came later with the Judeo-Christian belief system, with the beliefs associated with organized religion. And once religion became an organized body, where it wasn't just people and their culture, their tribe, pride in oneself and in one's family, when that started to be replaced with the belief that you were part of a huge machine, that you were part of the country, part of the society, which really meant God. You then were told that it was sinful to take pride in your own achievements, that you were not allowed to go and get things for yourself. This was seen as selfishness. Pride and selfishness were sins that were worthy of damnation. In fact, you hear, even today, but, if you watch movies in the past, you'll hear the Catholic priests go, the sin of pride. Well, you can go into church now and they'll talk about the sin of pride. And God, you should only be seeking God's will and not yours. So there became this block, and people became unconsciously conflicted. Because on the one hand, we were still taught the value of hard work, the value of self-respect. But at the same time, you were taught that only God decides what to give you. And God must receive all the glory, and you must live your life in order to give God glory and none for yourself. And then you go even further and you're taught, like Jesus, you're supposed to carry your cross, to carry your burden. And now we have this idea of God's will. Well, if it's God's will, I'll be successful, but if not, that's just God's will for me. And, even if you're not religious, you still operate from these same ideas when you say, well, if it's meant to be, or, well, I guess that wasn't what I was meant for, or I guess I'm not meant to be with that person. And it's not that there isn't truth to all of these things. Of course, there's half-truths everywhere. But it puts you in a position where you are passive and you are dependent upon some other being's will. Even if, you're not religious, you say, I wasn't born in a religious family, and my family always taught me to go get. You are still being constantly bombarded with these values in our society, in our media, in our educational system. You're still being bombarded with the idea of, well, if it's my fate, well, if it's what's meant to be. And what this creates, again, is a conflict in the unconscious mind. Now, conflict is probably worse than anything because nothing happens. Now, as I have been teaching, and what I have probably said earlier in the series, is that it really doesn't matter what you consciously intend if your unconscious mind is programmed to believe the exact opposite. One of the other values that has been given in modern society is the idea that money is evil, and that spiritual people shouldn't have money, spiritual people shouldn't make money. I get this all the time as a spiritual teacher. People tell me that I shouldn't charge money for what I do. Well, it's okay to go and pay the plumber, pay the dentist, pay the grocer, but it's not okay to pay the spiritual teacher. Now, I'm not here to harp on that. I'm here to point out that that value of spirituality and money don't go together. That you can't be a spiritual person and be financially successful in your life. This is coming from that organized religion movement that was designed to create you into a sheep, a dependent, passive creature that the government could control. And the government, especially in the Middle Ages, always associated itself with God. In fact, the rulers, the kings, according to the Bible, were people who were put there by God because God knows what's best for you. So you have to follow their laws, and whatever they tell you to do. And if they taxes they want to take from you, whatever laws they want to impose upon you, if you are a righteous person, you must submit to the will of them because they represent the will of God. See what I mean? So there's an unconscious belief in a lot of people that money is bad. There's an unconscious belief in a lot of people that they don't deserve money. And if they start to get it, then on an unconscious level, they start to feel that they're sinning. They start to feel that they're unworthy. On a conscious level, they may be thinking to themselves, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be happy. I want everything. But no matter how much they say to themselves, I'm going to have a big house, I'm going to have a car, I'm going to have a marriage and a family, and I'm going to be happy and healthy. No matter what they say to themselves on a conscious level, if on an unconscious level, which means they're not aware of it, if on an unconscious level they're operating from an assumption that they don't deserve money, or that money is bad, or money is wrong, or that you only get what God or the society decides for you, or what your fate is, or what your luck is, if you have that going on an unconscious level, it won't matter what you say up here. You will end up getting blocked. And this is, in my experience, the most profound problem that happens in most people, especially in the beginning. They're told in the truth from the law of attraction, which says that, if you focus on positive things, you will attract positive things. If you vibrate on a positive level, positive things will come to you. And so in the beginning, that releases them and gives them a lot of hope, and it starts to work. And then what ends up happening? As they start getting what they want, the unconscious mind kicks in. Those negative assumptions of, only if it's God's will, spiritual people aren't successful, spiritual people can't have money, you can't be prideful enough to decide what you want, don't take too much. All of that stuff that's been programmed into you to make you more easily controlled, that kicks in. And then we're going to talk later, that creates a cycle of shame and guilt, which will trap you even more deeply. We'll talk about that later. But what I want to talk about in this video is the law of attraction that is specific for you. So what I'm saying is that you yourself have your own specific vibration that works with your true destiny. So as opposed to the religious view, the organized religious view that says that God has a plan for you and God has his destiny for you, which may be completely different from what you want. But again, that's very convenient, because then people in control of you can say, well, you're not supposed to lean on your own understanding. You're not supposed to be prideful in yourself. That is a sin. God has a plan for you for his glory that he wants to express through you, and your job, if you are a spiritual person, is to surrender to that. And it may not be what you like, but that's God's lesson for you, and that's what you're here to learn. If you're meant to be poor and miserable and sick, that's God's will. Now, that is a very pervasive belief, and even if, as I said, even if you consciously haven't been raised that way, you've still been bombarded with that. Okay? So you get what I'm saying. If you have an unconscious programming of poverty and sinfulness and God's will and all that kind of stuff, then in the beginning you may have some success vibrating on the things that you want, but once you really start to connect to the things that you truly want, it's going to short circuit itself. Now, what all of these teachings have told you is that the universe is arbitrary. Arbitrary means that there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just happens however it happens. We don't know why it happens, it just sort of does. And even though the belief in God, that God's will is what directs your life, it's still arbitrary from your perspective, because we have this experience of, well, I don't know what God's will for me is. And, God's will for me is to go and become a missionary down in a third world country, and I have to, do something I really don't want to do. Well, if I was truly a spiritual person and I cared about others, I would just throw my life away and go live for other people like that. That's arbitrary, because it means that you don't know what your destiny is. It's just a roll of the dice. as far as you're concerned, even though it's supposedly connected to God's will. It's still an arbitrary thing from your perspective. And that sends the message that the universe is an arbitrary place, meaning that the universe is just sort of like this machine. In fact, in medieval times, and even in the Restoration period, people believed that the universe was like a clock, and that God had wound it up and set it and then just left it. And so it was just running on its own. It had no consciousness. You couldn't interact with it. It was just this machine that worked. Sound familiar? Sounds a lot like the belief that we live in a matrix, right? Same idea. But that's because what they're really saying with that belief is that life is arbitrary and you really don't have any choice in the matter. And so that bleeds into the law of attraction, because a lot of people use the law of attraction thinking that they can just arbitrarily decide, I want this, I want that, I want this. And not that I'm trying to limit people's ability to decide what they want, but a lot of people don't even know what it is that they want. And so they think what they want is a lot of money and a big 10-story house. But that may not be what it is they truly want deep inside. And because they've been taught that they're not allowed to have their own desire, to have their own destiny that they themselves create, there's an internal block. Whenever they get close to it, they feel guilty, and so it just like erases it. And I get this all the time with people when I ask them, what is your greatest fantasy? In your greatest fantasy, what are you doing? And they say, I don't know. And that's because they have this conflict inside of them on an unconscious level. They don't even know what their true desire is. So, what I'm here to tell you is that based on, this isn't just what I've been taught, and I have been taught this in some practices that I've learned, but it's also been my experience. I have proven it in my own life. I've also seen it proven in the lives of my students. And that is that you came into this world with a desire that you yourself programmed into your entire being. Now, you did this, your soul did this before it came here. And your soul came here to experience its greatest joy. So I want you to get rid of the idea that your soul came here to learn a bunch of hard lessons, and we're here to learn, and if we make mistakes, we get reincarnated. That's not at all been my experience. My understanding and my personal experiences taught me that what your soul wants most of all is to just have as much fun as possible. And that the universe is not an arbitrary place. The universe is here to empower everybody on their journey. And the great thing about it that makes it a win-win for everybody is that if you go after what you truly want most, your deepest desire, that you may think is wrong. Most people, here's one way I know that somebody is starting to tap into their true soul desire. I'll ask them, in your fantasy, what it is that makes you happy. And they'll say, well, this is kind of stupid, or this is kind of selfish, or maybe this is impractical, or this is silly. As soon as they say that, I already know that's exactly what they're supposed to do. Because that shows that they're becoming conscious of the block within them, that they have been programmed by their parents, by society, by religion, by television, by radio, by music, to feel guilty about what it is they truly want. And so since they're tapping into what they truly want, they're starting to have that guilt, that self-criticism. And so if they can overcome that self-criticism and really accept that, then the law of attraction works every time. And we'll get into why that is. So you have come here, your soul has come here with this very specific idea or ideas throughout your life of what it is it wants to experience. And the way that it gets you to do it is motivating you through joy. And the great thing about it, which I wanted to say earlier, is that when you are having real, true fun from the soul, you always help other people, always. So you never have to make the decision between, well, what I want versus what other people want, or what I want versus what is best for others. If you come to the true realization of what it is you truly want, and the people around you are trying to stop you, or if society is trying to stop you, or if you feel guilty about it, then that just means that even if society or people or friends or family get upset with you, it's only because you are teaching them to do the same thing, and they are struggling with their own guilt about doing what they want. Now, it's not your job to tell them what to do. It's just your job to show them through example what it is to live your life and be happy. And that is always the best thing for everybody, whether it's your children, your spouse, your parents, whoever it is. Okay? So I want you to get rid of that idea that what you want and what makes you happy is somehow wrong because it harms others. It will never harm others. They may not like it, but that doesn't mean that it's harming them. In fact, it's helping them. Okay? So now I've learned on an even deeper level that there is a specific vibration from your soul that each person has that's very specific to them. And if you can understand that, know what that is, a couple of really powerful things will happen. First, you will attract success. You will attract monetary success and personal success. You will attract, in fact, your greatest potential in the world, which will always be followed by money. So let's talk about money for a second. Money is just energy. So, I want you to get your idea, any judgments you may have about what money is. Money's good, money's bad. Get rid of all that. Money is simply an energy. And, there's a big movement now for people to get rid of money altogether and go to a bartering society. That's actually coming from an astrological shift that's happening now. We're moving from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. And the age of Aquarius is about the masses rising up and people working together cooperatively while still being their own person. And so the act of bartering reflects that. When you're getting rid of money, money represents, a system that's controlling you and all that. So I understand where that's coming from. However, I have some disagreements with that as well, because money is just energy. And in times past, our ancestors, before they started using coins and money, they bartered with real things. The word fee in our English language comes from the word for cattle. And that's because the pre-Christian Europeans didn't use money. They used cows. And so today, when we say I charge somebody a fee, what you're really saying is I'm charging them a cow. And that's because cows were practical ways. It's what you needed. I mean, the reason why people had cows was because it gave them milk, cheese, butter, meat, clothing, weapons, tools. It was the Walmart for, the ancient people. And so it was a very valuable thing. Wow, don't worry about giving me a spear or a tool or a vest or something. Just give me the cow. I'll take what I need out of that. Like money. Money is here's money, which is just energy. And with that energy, you go get whatever it is that you want. That's why we call it a fee. That's why we call it a cow. I charge a fee for somebody to talk to me privately. I'm charging them a cow. I want money from them in exchange for me helping them, and then I take that money and I go get whatever it is I want and I need. Money represents from the universe that you are being rewarded for following your truest self. Because when you follow your truest self, which is what makes you happy, you help others. And when you are helping yourself, you automatically help others. The universe, which is not an arbitrary place, responds positively with a reward in the form of resources, whatever resources you need. But for most people, the quickest way is just money. So money definitely does say something. And, say whatever you want about money. If if your true desire is to live in the middle of the forest, in a loincloth with a begging bowl, then then your resources will be different. You will be given health, you will be given happiness, you will be given the place that you need to be, you will be given, people will support you, and that the resources will come that way, but that's if you truly want it. If you're punishing yourself and you're denying yourself, even on an unconscious level, of resources, then the universe is not going to reward you for that. And we talk about that in the 5 Rules to Master the Matrix. If you're interested, you can watch that series. So I just want to impress upon you this idea that you have your own vibration, and this vibration, when you really see what it is and you start to vibrate on your true essence, then that does in fact immediately kick in the law of attraction, and you start getting success in the form of financial and personal success. Now, here's the thing about it. You may be completely clueless as to what your specific vibration is. And for this, we need to talk about astrology. So for those of you who don't know, I am a Vedic astrologer, and I help people with the things that have been most helpful for me. There's all kinds of things in astrology, what's happening overhead right now and all that kind of stuff. But in Vedic astrology, there is a science about learning what it is your true projection is. Now, you may not know what that projection is because you have your own experience of yourself, and that's what we call the ascendant, the first house. The first house is who you are. When you look in the mirror, you see yourself. For instance, in Vedic astrology, I am a Leo. I'm a Leo with moon in the first house. So when I look at myself in the mirror, I see a lion who's very sensitive. I see this very sensitive lion and very emotional, right? But my projection is not that. My projection is Mars in Libra in the third house. Mars in Libra in the third house is the warrior who brings spiritual balance. So people see me as a mediator, as a counselor, as a protector. When I present myself that way, even if I don't feel like it, even if I feel like that lion with a thorn in his paw, who's feeling very emotional, even if I have that feeling, I think that that's how everybody sees me. If I show up as my true projection, my reflection, people don't see that. They see the reflection and they reward me for it, which is what all this is about. This is my projection. I'm well aware that that's how people see me, whether I like it or not. Now, the great thing about your projection is that when you consciously and deliberately present yourself to the world as your projection, then all of your unconscious karmic issues come to the surface. Because for me, this is kind of an uncomfortable, in the beginning. I'm getting more comfortable with it now, but in the beginning, this was an uncomfortable way to present myself. A sleeveless shirt and the bald head and this and all that. And all of those things were a little embarrassing for me. But I started projecting myself that way, even though it was challenging for me. And I saw my income skyrocket. I saw people's response to me become extremely positive. And lots of times I felt really embarrassed about it. That's my pride. That's my ego. So let's talk about ego for a second, because we're taught in religious teachings that to feel powerful within oneself is ego, and one should be humble. Only God has glory. You can't take any glory away from God. Your job is to bring God glory even through your pain and your suffering. I mean, you think about it, it's a ridiculous thing, but the whole idea that your suffering brings Jesus glory or brings God glory. I mean, it's a really ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous thought. Think about it. It makes no sense. How would that bring, supposedly if there's this being up there who's created you and wants to take glory, then he would say, look at this amazing creature I've created and look at how successful he or she is. That brings me glory. Why would God get glory from your suffering? Yeah, it's just a thought. It just doesn't make any sense. So what ends up happening is that when we get in touch with our true projection, which will always be about you taking pride with yourself and your power and your ability to help and create and do whatever it is you're supposed to do within yourself that you've decided, and I say supposed to, meaning you want to, not that somebody else is telling you what you're supposed to do, but what your soul wants. There's always a karmic lesson in there because you have karmic issues that you need to overcome in order to be your highest, greatest self. And that will show up as embarrassment. You will feel embarrassed about those strengths that you have. And so your karmic task for your own enlightenment is to, humble yourself in allowing your greatness to shine out. And that's completely different. You see that? True humility is allowing your greatness to shine and to be happy with it and to be grateful. Yes, look at how amazing I am. That is your true attitude of humility. Because you then will want to give that to others and help others with that. And so what I found is that your projection will be intimately linked with what profession your soul wants you to go do so that you can be as wealthy as you can stand being. Does that make sense? So in order to understand that, you need to know what your aruta is, and this is in Vedic astrology. So I recommend that you go get a reading from either me or one of my apprentices. I have trained them in how to find people's specific vibration. So for that, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com and, like I said, get a reading from me or one of my apprentices. If you don't want to do that, then I recommend you can go online and try and find your aruta yourself. There are ways to do that. If you like me, you put time and effort into finding it out, you can find it out. And then I recommend that you go out and be that. Go out and project that to the world. You're going to have your issues with it, but it's always going to be associated with you feeling uncomfortable about showing your greatness. And then the law of attraction really works. So what we need to understand is that the law of attraction, if it's taken as an arbitrary thing, it doesn't work. And this is something that is taught in the law of attraction. It's when somebody says it doesn't matter what, whatever your emotion is, that's what you're going to attract. That is an incomplete and sometimes an outright false statement. And it can be damaging because then people believe that it doesn't matter what they emotionally project. Whatever it is, that's what they're going to get back. And so if people have a mistaken belief that having a huge mansion is going to give them happiness, maybe it will, maybe it won't. I don't have anything against huge mansions. I only say that because most people come to the law of attraction from an unconscious assumption of lack. They come to the law of attraction with a belief that they don't deserve money and that the universe doesn't want to give it to them. They're fighting with themselves about the guilt about having money to begin with, their worthiness of it. And so they want to feel safe. So they have this belief that if they have a lot of money, they'll be safe. And so one of the first things people do when they start coming to the law of attraction is they start trying to manifest a big house or a car or lots of money or winning the lottery without knowing what their true projection is, their true greatness is. And so because the universe is not arbitrary, when you try to vibrate about something, even if you have strong feelings about it, and the universe says, that's not what you told me you wanted. So I'm confused. I don't really want to give you that because you told me that wasn't what you wanted. And our experience is that the universe is denying us and that we're not worthy, and it reinforces all of that. But when you know what your true projection is, not your experience of yourself. Remember I said that, in astrological terms, I'm a Leo. I'm like the lion with the thorn in his paw, because I have a debilitated, I was born on a new moon, which makes my moon debilitated, which makes me very emotionally sensitive. And so my experience is I'm a lion with a thorn in my paw. But that's not how people see me. That's just my egotistical experience of myself. So your experience of yourself is just that. It's your own ego experiencing itself, and there's all kinds of lessons. This is what meditation is for, and spiritual practice, so that you can work through those issues. But that's not what people see. I can guarantee you that there is your own personal vibration that people see, and it is something very powerful. It may be something that they may not relate to. Some people have all kinds of really fun and esoteric projections, like the trickster. There are people whose projection is the trickster. Now, if their experience is that they're the priest and they're trying to walk around showing everybody how truthful and righteous they are because they're trying to bolster their own ego issues, what people see is this trickster not being their true self, and then people don't trust you. So one of the things that happens, and I know that this was true with me, but I know there's a lot of people out there who are trying to present themselves in a way that they think is true and good, but it's different from their own true vibration. And so what ends up happening is people don't trust you because they see you according to your projection, whether you like it or not. And if you try to go against that projection, people are going to feel uncomfortable around you. They're going to say things like, I don't know what it is about that person, but I don't like him. Whereas if you allow your true soul projection to come out, and remember, it's a projection. It's not who you are. It's a projection. It's a costume. It's a costume your soul has wanted to come and play a part. And it's not being fake. It's actually connected to what you have come here to give to others that will give you the greatest joy, and also help you to actually get rid of your ego, your narcissism, feeling sorry for yourself and all the drama associated with that. It gets you out of that. Doesn't mean that your feelings go away or that your issues go away. It just means that, we're here to enjoy life and to give joy to others. And the way you do that is to project your soul's costume, if you want to put it that way. Then when you do that, you end up getting all the resources that you need, and you work through your own karmic past life issues and your present life issues, and you help others work through theirs as well. It's a win-win for everybody. So again, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com to get started with that. Now, there are more things that we need to talk about, which have to do with guilt and shame. So one of the biggest problems that I've seen with the incomplete law of attraction is that people, again, in the beginning, maybe they will have some success, but almost certainly they will be very attracted to the idea of feeling good. Now, most people come to the law of attraction because there's some uncomfortable feelings that they want to overcome. They may feel guilty. They may feel unworthy. They may feel unloved. They may have some sadness. They may have some trauma that they dealt with from dysfunctional families, maybe outright abuse. But people usually show up to the law of attraction because there's something missing. There's something that needs healing within them. And so what ends up happening is that they become very attracted to the idea of, if you stay in positive vibration, meaning if you stay in positive feelings, then positive things will come to you. And so the message is, don't focus on the negative, only focus on the positive. And let me just reflect back to you about this, because the theory is that if you are having a positive feeling, if you have a positive intention, then positive things will come to you. Makes perfect sense. That is true. It's only a half truth, but it is true. But the other thing is they'll say, well, don't focus on the negative. If you focus on the negative, then negative things will come. Oh, you've had all these negative things happen to you? Well, it's because you're focusing on the negative all the time. And so what ends up happening is that people are taught that their feelings are bad. And so this creates this cycle of shame and guilt. And that creates its own problem, which then, if that goes forward, what ends up happening is that people, if they try and follow the law of attraction, it actually creates more poverty and sadness, and it just creates this never-ending cycle. So I'm going to share with you in part B how to address that and how you can turn that around and make it work for you. Okay, so if you like this video, I recommend that you go to thunderwizard.com. Go to the right side of the page and you'll see the Manifestation Mastery course. Click on that, and that will give you access to all of the B videos. So there's A videos and B videos. This is the Manifestation video 2A. So go on there and click on the Manifestation Mastery course. That will get you access to all of the B videos, including 2B. We're going to take a look at how shame and guilt create this whirlpool that makes it impossible for you to pull yourself out of it. But I'm going to show you how you can short circuit that, turn that around, and use the law of attraction so that you will be able to get what you intend. Okay? So I'll see you in the B video. Very important, do not forget, go to thunderwizard.com. You'll get to the thunderwizard.com Patreon page. Look on the right side of the page and click on Manifestation Mastery Course. Those who click on the Manifestation Mastery Course will get access to the deeper level manifestation teachings that are only available to those who sign up for the course. And also, don't forget, go to the free thunderwizard.com YouTube channel and subscribe. Okay, stay tuned for the next video.